What we need now more than ever is strong leadership in this country. And that strong leadership that values every American life, that values the lives of our men and women who serve in uniform, and who's willing to do the tough work. Bobby talked about his uncle's diplomacy and finding a way to speak directly to Khrushchev to prevent us from facing a nuclear war at that time. President Trump has already shown through his previous administration that he is that leader. I was a member of Congress at that time, representing my home state of Hawaii. And as you can imagine, we've got some local people in the crowd here. Right on. Aloha. As you can imagine, the threat of a nuclear attack from North Korea was a very real one. And so it was very frustrating to me during the Obama administration that they refused to engage in direct diplomacy. President Obama refused to meet with the leadership of North Korea. Why? What I was told as a member of Congress serving on the Foreign Affairs and the Armed Services Committees was, and I'm quoting, "We don't want to reward Kim Jong-un with a meeting with the President of the United States." There's a big open window into how they view themselves and how little they valued us. That those of us who are within range, even at that time, of ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, as we saw North Korea's nuclear capabilities continuing to increase, now they have the capability to reach anywhere in our country. What did President Trump do about that when he took office? He went and met with Kim Jong-un. Why? Because he cares about us. He cares about our lives. He understands the seriousness of nuclear war. Bobby talked about in great detail how catastrophic a nuclear Armageddon would be for all of us here in the United States and the world. President Trump recognizes that. He took action to try to de-escalate those tensions and to try to prevent nuclear war. How did Kamala Harris respond? Well, she talked about it in the debate that they had not that long ago, and she criticized him for engaging in that direct dialogue, that direct diplomacy on behalf of the American people. She criticized him for engaging directly with Putin. Why? To act in the best interests of the American people and our safety and our security in dealing with the other country that has more nuclear weapons than any other country in the world. We hear a lot about the term peace through strength. And very often it's used by neocons who are interested in spending more of our money to build up the military-industrial complex. But what they're not telling us is peace through strength is the strength of leadership that President Trump has already demonstrated in being willing to meet with adversaries and dictators and friends and allies. I almost threw something at the television during that debate many times, but especially it cut straight to my core when I saw Kamala Harris look straight into the camera, speaking to all of us, declaring with an air of victory and confidence that there was not a single active duty service member serving in any combat zone anywhere in the world for the first time this century. It made me angry and it made me sick because I have friends currently who I have served with in war zones who are currently deployed in combat zones as she was delivering those words. It's worse than lies. It's worse than lies. She is the Vice President of the United States. She says that she sits next to Joe Biden in the Situation Room in the White House when every major decision is being made. She was the last person in the room when President Biden made the decision to execute the most disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan that we've ever seen, that took the lives of 13 servicemen and women. she stands there with great confidence and talks about how much she cares about our men and women in uniform and what kind of leader she will be as our commander-in-chief. She has shown us what kind of leader she will be. One who didn't care enough to show up and receive the remains of those 13 servicemen and women who were killed at Abbey Gate when they came home. One who didn't care over these last 3 years since they were killed because of her and Joe Biden's decision to even call their families and express her condolences or even apologies for that disastrous withdrawal. And one who stood there and spoke to over 70 million Americans who were watching that debate and said, none of my brothers and sisters are in harm's way today, when many have been killed under her watch, including this year. How can we trust someone who cares so little in the job that she currently has about the cost of war and who pays the price, that she thinks we should promote her to be president? The cost of war is real. I served in a medical unit during my first deployment to Iraq. It was 2005, during the height of the war, when we took an incredibly high number of casualties. That deployment changed my whole life. When I went home, I had left a seat in the state legislature and volunteered for this deployment. When I went home, people thought, okay, good, you're home. Welcome home. You can come back and kind of pick up your life where you left off. But there was no way that I could do that. I was resolved because of that experience and the experiences that I had in deployments that followed, both in the Middle East and in Africa, to be in a position where I could make those decisions about war and peace, recognizing that diplomacy, all avenues of diplomacy must be exhausted, and seeing war as a last resort. I stood with President Trump at Arlington Cemetery on the 3rd anniversary of that suicide bomber at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. I felt his sympathy and his sorrow as he shared that time with those Gold Star families who were there. I saw in him someone who will keep that promise to take care of our men and women in uniform, to make those decisions carefully, seeing war as a last resort, and doing the tough work to fulfill the promise that he has made to every one of us, to walk us back from the brink of World War III and nuclear war so that we can live free. We cannot live free unless we are at peace. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. And if we allow Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris back into the White House again, we will see not only more war, but we will see that continued grab on our rights and our civil liberties and our freedoms once again in the name of, well, if we are to keep you safe, we have to take your freedom away. This is a false choice that we should never accept. We have to demand more from our leaders to defend our liberty and keep us safe. I've endorsed President Trump because he is our best hope to do that in this election at this dangerous time.